What's happening, road dogs and highway hounds? Uh, just checking some things out here online, and I got a tweet here. Bitcoin is up, or Bitcoin's going down, and Litecoin is going up. So I just bought some Bitcoin, and I'm on CoinMarketCap.com, and I'm just kind of going down through the list and looking at this stuff and trying to help make sense. This is not investment advice, you know. I mean, I'm struggling to understand this stuff just like everybody else is. And looking at Bitcoin as number one with a market cap of $17 million or $billion. Thought it was up to 20. But anyway, it's going down, which I like, because I like it when things go down, because then that's a buying signal for me, and I pretty much I do stick with just Bitcoin and Litecoin, because I know that they're trustworthy. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I know there's a lot of new people out there, and when you go to CoinMarketCap.com, it's pretty overwhelming to try and do all this research. Bitcoin's number one. I trust that one. You know, it's the mothership, right? And I'm just going down the list, and I'm giving my thoughts. Ethereum, okay? Ethereum has got a problem with the release, because now this may be different now, because there was no defined amount when it came out. I was around with the pre-sale. I didn't buy because it was they didn't tell you how many were going to exist, so there's no set limit. But I was complaining about that in the beginning, and somebody wrote down or explained to me that they had just issued something that there will only be 91 or 95 million, something like that, in existence. But at that time, which I don't know if this is still true or not, because there's no defined amount. But at that time, about 80% of the entire supply were given to the developers and the insiders and the people who bought at the pre-sale, and like 15-20% were left for everybody else to fight over. Okay, and that's a huge problem with me. That's basically a pre-mine, is what that is. That's a horrible distribution model. But another thing was I think they raised like 20 million before the pre-sale for development, which I don't know. And they went down to a beach house in Miami, Florida, and they partied like it was 1984. And Vitalik sat there on his computer and wrote the code for Ethereum. I don't know why that took $20 million, but Joe Lubin, the chief operations officer at Ethereum, formerly worked for Goldman Sachs. There were 3 people involved from Goldman Sachs in the startup. One was a Dr. Costa, and I never could find out the other one from Goldman Sachs. I would love for you to write down all 3 names in the comments of the people who were involved with the release of Ethereum that were from Goldman Sachs. But I know there was a Dr. Costa. I couldn't find a first name, and Joe Lubin, who's the chief operations officer, and there was one other one that I couldn't find a name on. But and Joe Lubin is he's a former hedge fund manager. So these guys deal with big money. Uh, Jim Cramer is also a hedge fund manager, and if you look up Jim Cramer manipulation on YouTube and watch that, you will see him talk about his strategies and the way he uses uh, he, the way hedge fund managers manipulate the market. And they put out news stories at times. You know, we had the Dow hack, and the Dow hack basically stopped the growth of Ethereum. So now, if I'm a hedge fund manager and I'm trying to pump my coin, you know, remember the the company Ethereum, which there's no company with Bitcoin and Litecoin, but the company of Ethereum raised $60 million, okay, for Ethereum in Bitcoin. So that is a lot of power to manipulate markets. And who would a hedge fund manager go to raise $60 million? It wasn't raised by people, by common people. It was raised by institutional investors, bigwigs. And who was at that party at at Miami Beach? I wasn't invited. Were you? I don't know. But I'll bet you it's some of the people that gave him that $20 million and who bought in to that $60 million pre-sale. So Ethereum has some problems. It's got some people in there who will pump the price up. And I hold Ethereum. I bought pre-fork Ethereum because I thought that the price was going up and I'm missing the boat, and that is a bad. I stick to the fundamentals of what I know, and so I bought a very small amount, you know, of pre-fork Ethereum. And I'll just skip down to number 7, which is Ethereum Classic. Now, Ethereum Classic, when the fork came, when the Dow hacked, the company of Ethereum made the decision to fork the coin, and that caused this division, and that's where Ethereum Classic came out of. Well, all the developers went with Ethereum, call it Ethereum Hard Fork, and Ethereum Classic was a bunch of rebels, and the developers went with Ethereum Hard Fork, and Ethereum Classic, you know, I don't know how many of the developers went there. I don't think any of them, really. And another thing to keep in mind with Ethereum Classic, that 60 million, the people who bought in the pre-sale, and now people will say that, well, people sold their Ethereum after the pre-sale. Well, okay, yeah, in the sense that they probably moved them out of the pre-sale wallet into a wallet that was more than likely is pre-fork. So that $60 million has the potential to manipulate both Ethereum Hard Fork and Classic. Too many questions for Ethereum. I don't like it. If I ever need it, I'll get out of my Bitcoin and Litecoin and go in and come out. But Ethereum and Ethereum Classic are not trustworthy coins. Okay? Now there's a thing going on with there's a long-standing debate about segregated witness, and it's complicated and it's hard to understand. You look it up and study it yourself, but it's not a new thing. It's something that's been going on. And Roger Ver, we know who Roger Ver is, hopefully. Call him Bitcoin Jesus. He's an early investor, and he holds like over 100,000 supposedly. Who knows how much he holds, but he holds a lot of Bitcoin, and he's not getting his way, and he's very upset right now. So he's causing a lot of chaos in the Bitcoin community, which doesn't scare me, but it's, you know, it scares a lot of people. And I think what's going on right now is people are seeing this thing with Bitcoin And what I've always said is that Bitcoin's threat is not necessarily the code or getting hacked, but it's a an emotional thing. And I think what people are doing now is they're diversifying out of Bitcoin, and they're going into what they think is the next best thing, which is Ethereum. Which I'm telling you, with all the problems that I just talked about, Ethereum is not a good option. Um, so now the next thing is Dash. Now Dash is number three. It's got a market cap of 700 million. It's trading at $9,900 right now. So people are really excited who are holding Dash. But and this is what got me wanting to do this video. I'm tired and I don't feel like doing this video, but I think this is important stuff. So if you're new, I've been in this space and I've watched it all, and or a lot of it anyway, and I think I've got a good perspective, and I'm just throwing this out there to help you. It's not advice. You got to do your own research, and I know enough to be wrong. So but here's a tweet that I just saw. I just retweeted it. Go to my Twitter at BTC the number 4 and LTC at BTC4LTC, Bitcoin for Litecoin. You can follow me there, but I just retweeted that, and this is what it says. Dash is a pre-mine. If you don't know what a pre-mine is, it's basically when people put out a new coin, they mine a bunch for themselves, and then they let you do it. Basically like what I was just talking about with Ethereum. Charlie Lee just retweeted this from at KYLETORPEY. With a current supply of 7,100,000 Dash, this means that 28% of all Dash currently in existence was mined in one day. Now they say that that was a flaw that they in the Litecoin code, okay, which I don't know why Charlie Lee, didn't mine a bunch, because Litecoin didn't have that problem. It was a fair release. But apparently the people over at Dash have incompetent developers, and they don't know what they're doing, and they accidentally just mined 1 million of these for themselves on the first day of mining, and then they fixed the problem and went forward. And so what they're doing in my humble opinion is they're using that million. What would that be? 1 million times 100. 1 million, and that's more than 1 million. That's over 200 million Dash that they have in their possession, isn't it? I don't know, 28% of 700 million or 7 million. It's a lot. It's significant. So what? They got a couple $100 million to promote their coin, and that's why you see it everywhere. Is because they hire promoters, Amanda Johnson, and I'm holding my tongue. But 7 million, 28% of the entire supply was mined in a single day. Okay, they've got a lot of Dash, and that's a lot of power. And just when you go to CoinMarketCap.com, you have to remember that market capitalization is only one measure. It does not tell you about pre-mines. It does not tell you about scams. It doesn't tell you about anything but what the market cap is. It's one measure. Okay, so take that for what it's worth. Monero, I haven't heard anything bad about Monero. It's an anonymous coin like Dash, but I don't know how many are supposed to be mined. I'm really ignorant about Monero. So and I've just after I went through the Ethereum thing and I saw the scam there, I just pretty much decided I'm going to stick with the gold and silver. And if I need to be anonymous, which I don't, I could go into Monero at any time I wanted to. But I like the way that Bitcoin and Litecoin are tied together. Bitcoin's going to have 21 million coins. Litecoin's going to have 84 million coins. That's all I need to know. So I trade the ratio. Bitcoin's going down, Litecoin's going up. I'm buying Bitcoin on the way down. I buy on the way down. You buy when the price is going down. Don't get into this mindset that you see something going up and, oh, I gotta get it, because that's how I stumbled into Ethereum. But now Ripple is a good case study about, and it relates to Ethereum, because what happened with Ripple was the hot thing at one time, and there was a lot of excitement about Ripple, um, and it was a centralized cryptocurrency, and it still is, just like Ethereum. But you look at Ripple and it's got a huge market cap, but why is the price at 0 cents? It's like worth a half a penny. Well, the reason is because it's a centralized coin like Ethereum. The people who invested in the pre-mine or whatever, the CEO decided to quit, and he dumped all of his Ripple onto the market, just like the people at Ethereum could do if they wanted to, which they're probably not. They're manipulating markets. They're whatever is what that's my interpretation of what's going on with Ethereum. The DAO hack that's subsided. Okay, let's pump it up a little bit, create some excitement. And it's also very easy to buy on Coinbase. Ethereum is. But here's the thing. So Ripple, for whatever reason, the CEO of Ripple lost faith in it and dumped his coin. And a lot of people lost money. And a lot of people are going to lose money in cryptocurrency. This is like the 1990s. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the 90s .com bubble. I had buddies coming up and showing me their 401k and look at how much money I'm making in tech. And more recently with the housing bubble. There's a lot of bubbles that are going to pop in cryptocurrency. I think Bitcoin and Litecoin are going to be the survivors, possibly Monero. I mean, but see, the thing is, here's the thing. It's not necessarily a rational. So much of these markets are based on emotion, and people get panicked. Like, people are probably panicking right now about Bitcoin with all the Roger Ver FUD and all this stuff, and not that I mean, and what he's trying to do is he's trying to get his way, and it's pretty sad, really. So then I look at Litecoin. Now, when I discovered Bitcoin, it would have been late 2013 when I heard about it before, but I was like, yes, this is something I need to pay attention to. It was late 2013, and Litecoin was number 2, and that was when I was like, yeah, Bitcoin's gold, Litecoin's silver, it makes sense. But Charlie Lee is an MIT grad. He used to work at Google, gave up his job at Google and went over to Coinbase. He positioned himself very well in the marketplace. And Litecoin was supposed to be on Coinbase. There was a lot of speculation that Litecoin was going to go on Coinbase back then, but it never did, and it never did, and it never did. And it was just like, what's going on? Why is Litecoin not there? And they said that it was too confusing at Coinbase. They didn't want to confuse people with gold and silver, because Bitcoin is gold, and so they didn't put it on there to confuse people. But then along comes Ethereum, with all these people putting this money into Ethereum, and lo and behold, Ethereum gets on to Coinbase before it's even a year old cryptocurrency. totally untested. And that's when the DAO hack happened, and that's when it stopped growing. So these guys at Coinbase are like, "Oh my gosh, what do we do?" And it was a really immature move, especially when they didn't want to confuse people with Litecoin. 1/4 of a Bitcoin. I'm a truck driver, and that really confuses me. But so they didn't put Litecoin on Coinbase, and and my kind of feeling with this whole thing and the way that the things have developed is that, you know what, Coinbase ain't in charge. Coinbase is not going to pick the winners and losers of this cryptocurrency thing. I'm sticking with Litecoin, and that's when I named my channel Bitcoin and Litecoin, not ever thinking that I'd be doing crypto charts, but nobody was saying this stuff, so I feel like I have something valuable for people to. I've got a perspective that a lot of the newer people don't have because they haven't been around. And so I'm doing this to help you guys out. I'm not asking for money. I don't want your money. I just keep working and I make my own. So that's number 6 is Litecoin. Ethereum Classic. NEM. I have no idea what this is. XEM. That is. Oh, wait, what is that? I can't remember. I'm not sure what that is. But it's probably a newer coin that came out after, because I just lost interest in all this stuff because I don't want to research all of these new coins because so much of them are junk. Augur, that's some platform built on top of the Ethereum code, and if Augur is a cool thing, it can be ported over to RSK Labs. RSK Labs. You want some free RSK? Go to faucet.rsk.co. You can get a wallet at jax.io. Go download the wallet at jax.io, and you can get a wallet there, and you can get like 10 free RSKs, which are supposed to be a one-to-one. And I don't know what's going on with this. I want to find out. But maybe if one of you guys from RSK are watching this, you can explain. I mean, is this just for the test net, or will it be? Because if it's a one-way peg, you guys are giving away like $10 a pop. So you can get, if this is going when the RSK network goes live, you're getting $10 free. So it's worth a shot. I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But go to faucet.rsk.co and get some free RSK. Which is, RSK is basically the anti-venom to Ethereum. So basically everything that Ethereum can do, RSK will be able to do with Bitcoin. And I believe in time Litecoin is going to succeed because of the integrity of the coin, and people are getting to know that it's one of the good coins. And now Augur, I don't know much about it. I think it's like a gambling thing. They call it a prediction thing because a prediction market. Yeah. But anyway, so Augur is something for gambling or predicting things that are going to happen. But that can be ported over. The guy who developed it, I asked him. Because I was kind of bent that they were on Ethereum, and I said something like, you should really work with RSK, and he said, oh, we can go to RSK. So Augur, if you like it and you do your own due diligence and you think it's something worth it, it can be transferred over to RSK's platform and used with Bitcoin and hopefully someday Litecoin. MadeSafe coin. MadeSafe is a very interesting concept. I love MadeSafe, but I'm too dumb to know what to do with it. So Made safe is a good thing. So, of the top 10 on marketcap.com, my perspective, the good ones are Bitcoin, Monero, Litecoin, and Made Safe Coin. And really, I wouldn't mess with Made Safe Coin unless you really know computers good and you know what's going on. And you do your research. If you're into gambling, Augur supposedly might be something you'd be interested in. But as for me, I'm sticking with Bitcoin and Litecoin. And if I need to be anonymous for whatever reason, which I don't, I would use Monero above Dash. And let me warn you with Dash, Roger Ver is stomping and he's mad because he's not getting his way. And he bought a bunch of Dash. And I would not be surprised if he dumps a bunch of Dash. But the speculators are in there. They're pumping that coin up. Ethereum's going up. And I think people just don't know where to go. I think they're wanting to diversify out of Bitcoin, and they're looking for some place to go. So what I'm saying is not financial advice, but this is my perspective for a long term view of it, from the outside looking in, trying to figure out this stuff just like you are. Bitcoin, Monero, Litecoin, and not necessarily in that order. I would hold Bitcoin, I would hold Litecoin, and I root for Monero to supersede Dash, but really, this is the thing. I was listening to Tone Vase. If you're in this stuff, you have to listen to Tone Vase. He's very smart. He only buys Bitcoin. I am pretty much the same way, only I buy Litecoin as well. Alright? Because I like the gold and silver aspect. You can trade that ratio, the gold and silver ratio, but the Bitcoin and Litecoin ratio. And I think the ratio is probably catching up. I didn't check it, but you divide it and figure out what it was, but it was at 300 here just like a week or two ago. But with Bitcoin going down and Litecoin going up, I'm sure that's tightening up, and that's the way I view cryptocurrency. I don't care about Bitcoin and Litecoin are deflationary by nature. I don't know about Monero. I don't know how many they're going to mint. After I got burnt with Ethereum, I pretty much quit looking at all the new stuff. Because this stuff has got to, it's got to be, you're not just going to, oh, Dash is going up and then you got to jump out. I don't want a high managed cryptocurrency. I want something I can just buy, hold, and forget about. And that's why I stick with Bitcoin and Litecoin. But, oh yeah, something else about Ethereum Classic. So, now, somebody told me that Ethereum was only going to have like 90 million, 95 million coins. That was the defined amount after they sold a bunch at the pre-sale and figured out how much money they were going to have. Then they issued the coins. But the people at Ethereum Classic, I just heard like a month ago, they said, now we've got a defined amount. And the defined amount that we're going to stick to is 250 million or something like that. So Ethereum Classic just changed the amount that was supposedly set, and this is pre-fork stuff, before they split. And that was supposed to be set at 95. It was capped at 95, and they just raised it to 250 million or something like that. I don't know, but I heard that, and I'm like, what is that? So Ethereum Classic doesn't have any development. Basically, what you got with Ethereum Classic is a bunch of speculators. Tone Vase, God bless you, I love you, but I think it's your fault because you said that Ethereum one time would be at a one-way, would go on par, and I think a lot of people started buying Ethereum Classic wanting to see that happen. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because Ethereum can be bought. Ethereum hard fork can be bought. The centrally managed one can be bought on Coinbase, and Ethereum Classic cannot. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Ethereum's going to go away because I think there's a lot of dumb money going into it, just because it's easy. And, I don't mean it to offend anybody, but if you don't know what you're doing and you're just buying Ethereum because it's on Coinbase, there's problems with it. There's huge problems with it. There's been huge problems with it, and there's going to be huge problems with it. The reason that Ethereum was created was so that you could have a Turing complete, fully programmable money, which is a good concept. But that's coming to Bitcoin and Litecoin, and RSK Labs is going to do that. You can get some at faucet.rsk.co. I don't know if it's going to be any good or if it's just for the testing or whatever, but anyway, guys, I'll go over the chat, see if anybody's watching, but